Pears.
Nice.
Yes, one of nature's most delectable fruits. Excuse me, sir. How much for this?
Those are 50 cents.
Well, I won't pay full price, so I'll give you a dime.
They're 50 cents, buddy.
Very well, I'll drop you a quarter.
No,
Okay, 35 cents.
I don't have time for this friggin' Give me the 35.
Yeah.
Nice, man.
I talked you down.
Good barter.
There you go.
Good barter.
All right, Bozo, thank you. I'm calling a lot of people Bozo now. It's like my new thing.
TBTL.
I don't ever saw Baragas. That's an intergalactic space greeting. It means hello, space brothers.
I don't know. Maybe part of it's the fact that you're in a hurry. You've grown up on instant orange juice. Flip a dial, instant entertainment. Dial 7 digits, instant communication. Turn a key, push a pedal, instant transportation. Flash a card, instant money. Shove in a problem, push a few buttons, instant answers.
Discmans and floppy disks and zip drives, laser discs, answering machines, and Nintendo Power Glove.
You seem to me to be a pretty righteous hombre.
I wish you were my grandpa.
Dude, give me a brark. Give us the real deal or we're out of here.
Well, all right. Hello, good morning, and welcome everyone to a Tuesday edition of TBTL, the show that just might be too beautiful to live.
Don't miss the Sausage Fest.
My name's Luke Burbank. I'm your host.
First things first, I love my job.
Coming to you from the Madrona Hill studio, perched high above the mighty Columbia, where it's actually a pretty nice day so far.
Oh, Ma, Pa, it's just beautiful.
It was so cold yesterday. The sun was out, which was nice, but it was freezing while I was out on yard patrol. I'm just going ham on this yard.
Wanted to add a few comments regarding your mole situation.
But I didn't let that deter me. And today, when all my real work is done, I will once again be out there beautifying things. I've got a whole new life theory, as I often do, based on my experience weeding. Maybe I'll share that wisdom with all of you. Coming up here on episode 4695 in a collector series.
Let the fun begin.
It's like being Cisco Morris, but less entertaining. That's kind of my lane. My other lane is updating you all on the parking ticket I received in Portland, Oregon recently. The unfair parking ticket.
Can you verify? Can you give me some 411?
Where I clearly paid the meter. Then when I called them, the woman said, "Well, you have to plead guilty anyway, and then hopefully it'll work out for you." Well, we know the outcome of the whole thing. We'll talk about that. Also, I did get a chance to go to one of my very favorite establishments in all of the Pacific Northwest yesterday.
I need you to understand something so good. Check it out.
And a Seattle media legend, John Hinterberger, has passed away. If you are as old as I am and were as sort of immersed, I guess, in the Seattle media scene in the 80s and 90s, you know that he was a legend.
You're like the coolest person I've ever met.
And had an interesting played an interesting role in the rise of teriyaki, actually, of all things. So maybe we'll get into that, time permitting. We definitely have time for this legend.
I'm off-putting. I'm an embarrassment, but I'm also a legend, oddly.
He is the longest-running co-bro of the show, maybe best known for his depictions of the tall ships. Do I see a dog in the studio? He's Andrew Walsh, and he's joining me right now. Good morning, my friend.
That was a fake dog. The dog that you heard was a fake dog.
Not
Luke
my
is
dog.
spoofing.
That dog. That was why are you?
You're over there.
Why are you so defensive?
Because that sound effect is so realistic. When you play it, I always think I have a dog, and it is the most realistic sound effect that you play, by far. Whenever I hear it, it takes me a moment.
Would you say
realize.
That dog is barking? That is not my dog.
That is not my dog, but I am a little dog crazy here. We had a meeting yesterday, Genevieve and I did, with the person with the foster/adoption agency, which I'm blanking on the name of, which is probably fine. But I'll tell you what, I love this woman. I want to adopt this woman. She's great. Sure. I'm serious. I don't know.
They're good people that work with the rescue and the sheltering and the rehoming, if you will, of animals. They tend to be good folks.
They do.
But what?
Machine says the dog days are over.
But at the risk of alienating anybody, in our other pet adoption processes, we have found that the people
Takes a certain kind of person.
Yes, and they tend to be very. I have just run into this is like in our experience in the past adopting cats like through proper means. Now keep in mind we ended up getting Bingo off of like this is pre-Craigslist. So it was literally we went to a bulletin board in a grocery store in Boston. Did I ever tell you this story? We wanted to adopt a cat, and we went into a Vives. I grew up in the country, so I thought, like, let's just drive around the hilly parts of New Hampshire and look for free kitten boxes on the ends of driveways. Literally, that's what we did. And Vives was like, that sounds crazy. And I was like, no, this is how it works. She was right. It was crazy, and we did not find any kittens at the ends of driveways. But... And that was what it was like growing up. And so V's like, well, let's go through the proper channels. This is 25 years ago, keep in mind. But then when we tried to go through the proper channels, people were giving us all kinds of grief because Genevieve lived in Boston and the cat was going to live with me in New Hampshire. And it was like we couldn't. Oh, we tried an adoption shelter in Massachusetts, and they said you can't adopt out of state. It was just like all this red tape. We went through similar things when we were trying to adopt Professor Bananas. In both cases, we ended up...
And when you tried to adopt that child.
And, well, that is not...
You were driving around the countryside looking for kids that were wandering, and then you had to go through the formal process, and they wanted to have you answer a bunch of questions.
See, the thing about that was, I don't even want to get into that one, because we did find a kid, and everything was
legally,
fine.
It's best left not revisited.
They claimed that the child already belonged to another family, but at that point, I was kind of like, well, isn't
you claimed finders keepers?
Yeah, I was
in the case of finders versus keepers versus the state of New Hampshire.
I was like, why would you just leave a perfectly good child on the jungle gym? And so anyway, no, but we did find that there was a lot of officiousness and weird, and also just sort of like weird, like people who truly care about animals, but also have sometimes interesting kind of personalities around it, and have in our experience, and again, this is going back years, kind of a way of talking down to you and various things. And so I wasn't exactly sure what this is going to be like, and now I've set the bar so low that it sounds like I'm damning this woman with faint praise. But she was just so down to earth, not judgy, and so like informative, obviously, and just has a brain. She runs. I don't know what her role is, if she runs this organization or what her specific role is, but she just like shares her screen with us and is going through basically a database one by one, but like off the dome, like knows everything about all of the dogs on this spreadsheet, and it just kept going. And,
adorable.
And then she's like, oh wait, well, Bids isn't even on here. Here, let me show you a picture of Bid. Like she just had the databases in her head. She had it so locked in, but it was also like so unbelievably chill and non-judgmental and nice. And like I'm so excited to work with them. Honestly, it was such a good first impression. And as you know, to recap our journey here a little bit, Vives and I don't have. Vives grew up with dogs. I, for the most part, didn't, and so we want to make sure that we're just doing this right and bringing a dog into the house for the first time, that it doesn't disrupt our cat's lifestyle that he's grown accustomed to and everything. And so I'm ready to move very slowly with this process. The problem is Genevieve, and she admits this, is kind of like Genevieve just falls in love too quickly, like with real estate, with if we're looking for, an apartment to rent, whatever it is. I'm like, okay, great, let's start the process. It's going to be like 6 months until we find the right thing. But Genevieve,
do you think you might fall in love a little more slowly than the average?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. Like, I there's just no rush. Like, there's literally no.
Well, what if someone else gets it?
Well, that's kind of the thing. That's what drives Genevieve's thing. Is just like,
do you see any commonalities between me and your beloved?
Yeah, because I just sort of feel like the process is really important to the learning about this. Like, we're not just learning how to take care of a dog, we're learning the process as well. And so for me, it sort of seems like, well, if we adopt the first dog we see, then we don't even really figure out the contours and the options.
Then you don't get to have your heart broken 4 times.
Well, no.
Falling in love with dogs and then them not being the dog or someone else getting them.
I don't know. I go back and forth because I can assert, I mean, cats are, I do feel like a little bit different, or at least I have more experience with cats. So when we drove down to Tacoma, Tacoma 3 years ago to meet some kittens, I think we were pretty much on board that we were probably going to pick a kitten that day. We didn't bring Bingo home right away because he still had to be fostered and have some things, shots and procedures and stuff, I think. But we did go down there, and I will say Bingo made it very easy. Like, he crawled up on Genevieve right away, started playing with her, got tired, crawled over to me and fell asleep on my lap. Or maybe it was vice versa of that or something. He just demanded our attention right away. So we're like, obviously this is the cat for us. And maybe all dogs will do that as well because dogs are going to be so lovey. But anyway, it does look like we might go meet a couple of puppies on
what?
Yeah, the plan was to get like kind of an older. That is not my
okay,
puppy.
I'll stop playing.
No, I'm definitely. But
he's hilarious, dog.
Who is Rick Moranis?
Drops down.
Can you
Sorry.
say Rick Moranis without saying it in the patter of that SNL?
Of Drake?
Oh, yeah.
Drake on SNL, I think.
That's right. That's right. And it is Drake playing a nerdy guy,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
For some reason, I thought
he's hilarious, dog.
Who is Rick
Moranis?
This stand-up comedian was raw and delirious.
Oh, he is hilarious, dog. Okay,
Anyway,
so you're
we were
thinking
about an older
puppies.
dog, but there are several reasons we were thinking, or at least a couple of reasons we were thinking about getting an older dog. Not super old, but I was thinking like in the 2 or 3 age range.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, proven track record with cats. Like we wanted a dog that we knew had either lived with or had extended time with a cat, and we knew it wouldn't be an issue there. Also, easier to train, or kind of not having to train because the dog would hopefully be housebroken and everything. And also driving it was, I just sort of figured when you're dealing with an adoption agency like this that is like rescuing dogs, that it would be harder to like kind of get a puppy. I would assume that everybody was puppy crazy, and that it's almost a little bit more responsible to get a dog that maybe is a couple of years older and maybe not flying off the shelves. They keep the dogs on shelves, which is, but it turns out like we're just going to do whatever seems right. And the person we were talking to yesterday said, first of all, really raising a puppy with the kitten or with the cat, I should say, is probably a better way of guaranteeing that they will get along.
Have you seen a Disney film? It's freaking adorable.
I have. We also are thinking about
Fox
getting
and the Hound.
a talking bird.
And Iago from Aladdin.
And Genevieve really has her eyes on a singing lobster. That seems to be from Jamaica. Do I have any of that right? I don't know if I've seen that.
Yeah, you do.
movie.
I mean, those are from different films, but you are not wrong about any of those.
Great. So anyway, it looks like maybe on Thursday there's somebody who's fostering a couple of puppies up in the Edmonds area, which isn't too far from us. So I don't know. There's a chance. Do
you know anything about the puppies? Like,
we
what
saw
kinds of dogs
them.
they are.
We know that they're all mutts. I don't know if I remember.
The only reason I ask is
know
less
what was
about
in it.
Their purebredness and more just like how big we think they're going to get, stuff like that.
Well, their mom and these puppies are all up for adoption, but the mom, Lola, the woman we were speaking with yesterday, said like Lola's a real sweet dog, but was showing maybe a little bit too much excitement, like kind of chasing birds in the yard the other day or something. And she's like, because
whatever
of
Lola
that,
wants, Lola gets.
And so because of that, she's like, there might be a little bit more of an instinct of like kind of a prey instinct or something, maybe with Lola. So maybe not the first candidate to be around a cat. No huge flags there, but just
Lola's
maybe
the mom
something. But
too,
Lola's
right?
the mom,
Yeah.
and she's like right in our age range, like 2.5 or something like that. But then she has a litter of, I want to say 4 to 6 puppies. There was one, the first one that I saw that I was like, oh God damn it! Like, oh God damn it! Was this little puppy named Opalite, who is it's like
hell of a name.
I think the woman who we were talking with names a lot of them because I asked her about it. She's like, you just run out. You can only name so many of them. Lucky, like
this one's named Yellow Number 5.
She got
I'm just
Ophelia
Riboflavin. I'm just reading things off the back of the milk now.
She named there was some sort of Greek, I guess Greek thing going. It was Ophelia, Opalite, and then 2 other kind of Greek names
that was
or
just for
something.
Phyllis.
But anyway, Opalite, it looks like, is already now with another family in a trial foster situation. But I guess I think Ophelia is still in the mix. And
can you send me like?
I don't have any photos.
There's no digital a record of these animals? Okay, that's fine.
No, I don't think so.
If there was some
because-
kind of if there was some link that you could send me, I wanted to geek out on it with you. But
yeah, the woman was
that's
just
pretty
screen
exciting.
sharing with us, but I think they're
Gotcha.
and Genevieve might have a better understanding of what the makeup of these dogs were.
Sure.
If we know, I don't know, but I know that Lola, the mom, is only about I want to say 12 pounds. I think,
Oh,
or
wow.
maybe 15 or something. So pretty.
Okay.
I think I'm right about that. So pretty small anyway. So these dogs won't grow up to be super big, and we're pretty flexible on size, but small to medium small being kind of the ideal.
A few small
there.
dogs.
Just a few small dogs.
Or
That'll
just
be-
get 3 small dogs and kind of just sort of stack them on each other.
I
and
asked
then
them
you'll
if they
get
have
a kind
trench
of an-
coats. I'm like, do you
Yeah.
have 3 dogs
Those
and a
are
trench
going to come in
coat?
handy
Yeah.
at some point. Well, I think that's really great because I think that, again, this is, we have listeners in the audience who know more about this stuff than I do, certainly. But I think typically a puppy and a more grown cat will do pretty well together because even though the puppy is still probably somewhat formidable to the cat is kind of the boss potentially.
Especially
now I know you're
Bingo,
worried
because I
Yes,
think
exa-
Bingo
yeah.
is going to be he's a really
Yes.
smart cat, and I can see, not to get too deep into our household dynamics here, Luke, but Genevieve and I are having issues, and no, but.
Thruple news. Boy.
Today
Boy.
in Thruple News.
Yeah, serious. Let's get the heat off of our friend Lindy. My God, the internet is melting down about her book. It's like
I know. I haven't
give
read
the lady a break.
I don't even want to read any of the coverage until I read the book itself, honestly.
Yeah.
But Genevieve has been sort of filling me in on all of the blowback.
Really wild, actually, to just happen to know pretty well a person who the whole internet has decided they have opinions about.
Yeah, I know.
Even more
Such
so
a
than normal for
personal
her,
thing.
which is,
Yeah.
she's usually got a fair amount of activity, but I mean, this is just off the charts right now.
Yeah, it really is. And it's one of those, I'm sure we'll hopefully do another show with her soon, her and Megan, or have her on. But yeah, it's one of those things, though. And again, you and I have never dealt, or I'll speak for myself, I've never dealt with anything on such that level
Well,
of
openly, we haven't talked
publicity.
about our thrupleness.
Well, right, exactly. You, me, and
We haven't gone public with any of this
You,
yet.
me, and Opalite are in some sort of a.
That does sound like the name of a person that would be in a thruple.
But
Peace and love, everybody. Peace and love.
To the tiniest percentage of a degree that I know about people talking about or having opinions on our personal lives, it's one of those things where it's like, well, sometimes when it goes even a little bit too far, you're like, well, you live by the sword, you die by the sword to a certain extent. At least I'm talking about me now. I'm not trying to put this on Lindy, but it's kind of like, well, okay, people have opinions about, how I behaved in some situation or something that I've talked about on the show. In a certain way, I've made that public. And so I wonder how she sort of balances that as well. She writes about something very, very, very personal, but also I know that people are being shitty too. So, and people have been shitty to her a lot in her professional life. And so that's something.
Yeah, I think that Lindy would probably say that she wrote a book about her life, and so it's reasonable that people have read the book and then have formed opinions about what's in the book. I think she would say that that's very reasonable. I'm just surprised at the way that this has really. I mean, what I would say, and by the way, I'll be talking to Lindy at the Reeser over in beautiful Beaverton, Oregon on Livewire coming up. I don't have the exact date right in front of me. Oh, I do. It's going to be May 29th. So I guess maybe I'll ask Lindy about this during the show. But I think this is a really weird way to put it, but I think in a bizarre way, it's slightly a compliment to Lindy. And this is why people who are fans of hers or who really appreciate her writing and her other stuff identify with her so closely and so strongly. And she represents a lot to people. That when she is explaining her life and her decisions in a way that maybe either doesn't make sense to them or causes them to think that she's somehow a victim in her life or whatever, the reaction is just really, really, really intense. But that's only because of how much Lindy and the idea of Lindy means to people, which only happens when the idea of you means a lot to people. So it's, it's been anyway, we'll get Lindy on this show hopefully when she gets a moment to come up for air and then we could talk about it
yeah,
because I'm I'm curious what this has been like for her and her family and all of that stuff. But back to
let me just
your
finish
dog
my
throuple.
one thought on this, which was I was getting into the intimate details of my personal life, not unlike Lindy, and I think people really see the comparisons here. But
the internet has stayed fairly quiet on the topic.
Well, until we post this show, obviously. But so bringing Bingo into our family is somewhat complicated because obviously we love this cat more than life itself, right? Bingo is our boy, and he's so smart. We're so lucky. I've never had a cat like this before.
And you grabbed him somewhat hastily, so there's that's 1 point.
I love that you're pushing
for
me into
leaping before you look.
Yeah, like I don't know what's
leaping
in it for
before you look.
What is in it for you to push me to be hasty?
A validation of my entire life on this planet so far.
I see it. That's good.
Says the guy with 2.5 divorces and a trail of abandoned pets.
Yeah. So, but when we brought Bingo home, I have no regrets about that at all. Like, obviously, he's been an improvement in our life. It does continue to bum us out, Genevieve, to an even higher degree, that he and Bananas never quite totally jibed. Now, he loved Bananas, and whenever possible, I have a million photos of Bingo and Bananas snuggling before she died. But the reason I have so many photos of it is because it wasn't an everyday thing. So whenever we saw it, we took a million photos. Yeah, and it's not even like it never happened, but like it overfloweth our heart so much when we saw that. And I truly believe that if Bananas had another year with us, that year would have been, we were getting so close to them, I think, being more comfortable together. But the first 6 months, or at least it felt that way, we first brought Bingo home, Bananas was just always crunch. She had finally relaxed in our new house. We brought this little kitten home, and she just never, she was so much bigger. She was twice his size. And when he came up to her and tried to play with her or do something, she should have just taken her paw and tamped him down and been the older cat and taught him. We saw, Theo do that with Bananas when Bananas was the kitten, but Bananas was so timid, and so Bingo never got sort of an adult's paw in his raising. You know what I mean? And so, and it kind of bums me out. And I also hate to say it, but I blame the victim a little bit. Still in my head, I'm like, Bananas, why didn't you just take control of this kitten when you had the opportunity to? Having said all of that, given Bingo's oversized personality and general chill as well, I just think that he would have a role, as corny as it sounds. Get at me when you tire of getting at Lindy. Get at me about my crazy theory that my cat is going to raise this dog for me. But I just think that there's something to that.
Bingo will do. Just the video content, Andrew. And I don't mean for the website, but just for my personal use. Just that you send me of a puppy. And then Bingo having fun with the puppy. That just sounds sounds so damn delightful, and something that we all need during these troubled times.
Well, here's the deal, though. So we're going to visit one of these, or maybe the two dogs that haven't been adopted yet, these puppies that are Lola's kids. But also, I haven't even told you about Dibs, who is in the pipeline right now, who's currently in transit, I think, from New Orleans or something like that, and is going to arrive here in a couple of weeks and then has to be quarantined for a while. But we saw a picture of Dibs. Dibs is, again, I don't know, I think maybe a little bit of pit. He's still a puppy, though. He's got these really big paws, but they don't think he's going to get super big because that's a concern of ours, too. We don't want a super big dog. But that's kind of the thing is, I just feel like right now, I don't know. Okay, can I do something here? Let me. This is not an analogy that I'd been thinking of, but it was actually an experience that I had in Hawaii that I was thinking of you about because I knew that opening day for the Mariners was on Thursday during my vacation, right? And when I first realized that, I was like, oh no, am I going to miss opening day? Do we have dinner reservations or something at that time? And I looked at my calendar a couple of weeks before we left for vacation, and I saw okay, that's a clear day for us. We have nothing booked. That can be just a wake up, beach, pool day, whatever. Then maybe I can find a place to watch the Mariners game, like a bar or something, or I can take my laptop and just plug it into the TV in the Airbnb. So I'm thinking about this before we even leave for vacation. as the day gets closer, even on vacation, I am sort of bouncing off the walls with excitement over all of the options. Because Genevieve keeps saying, well, why don't we go down to like Bruce Magoose's or whatever, this like family kind of sports bar. It's like Spruce. It's not the Spruce Goose. It's Goose Magoose. I don't know, some cheesy kind of place. She's like, let's go there and see if maybe they'll have the game on, or this little kind of Hawaii dive bar that we go to. They might have the. So we were sort of asking bartenders.
Moose McGillicuddy's?
Yeah, Moose McGillicuddy's. Not your, not
the
your
one in
seed,
San
I don't
Diego.
think. No, is that a chain?
Well, there's a Moose McGillicuddy's in the Gaslamp. There used to be in the Gaslamp district of San Diego. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
I think it is called Moose McGillicuddy's, but it's like kind of it's one of those like a lot of flair on the wall, family restaurants, a lot of TVs or whatever.
Right, sure.
But in the days leading up, Vives is like sort of thinking about places we can go to watch the game, or that I can go to watch the game. I'm still thinking yes, but also I'm signing up for this Mariners package. By the way, it was going to be difficult. I was worried about any of the bars having the game because nobody knew what cable channel it was going to be on until literally 2 hours before the game.
It was insane. It was insane. And like, that's the kind of thing that, in my experience, particularly you're in Hawaii. I mean, this isn't necessarily even like Mariners. You're not in Longview or something. You're not like relatively close to Seattle. Like they could decide they're a Dodgers bar or something. And then it's also the kind of thing that like most bartenders are just trying to do their job of bartending. And when you walk in with like do you have do you have Mariners.tv going or whatever?
Right. Yeah.
They're like, no, why would I have signed up for that? I'm slinging green beer at Moose McGillicuddy's.
Yeah, and also, but this other bar that we went to that Genevieve I kind of met her there later, and it was kind of more of a I think they even call it like the Islands Dive Bar or something, but it's a nice little neighborhood bar. But Genevieve had gotten there first and was already kind of hitting up the bartender about like, apparently the bartender says, oh yeah, the manager here is a big Seahawks fan. Like like Hawaii does lean towards Pacific Northwest as far as sports culture is concerned. And because of that, the Mariners black out games on Mariners or on MLB TV in Hawaii as well. So, but okay, we don't have to get into all that. I know. I'm just so glad the world is finally, though, you and I have been like complaining about this. Like, boring old men for a couple of years now. Now there's all kinds of memes about it. Somebody, a listener, shout out to the person who texted me the meme of how there's a upcoming Angels Rangers game where every inning is going to be on a different streaming service. Did you see that as well? That's pretty good. Yeah. But all that is to say, this is not a negative of the story. This was, as I got closer, like I spent almost all day Wednesday, the day before the opening day, thinking, well, I could do this. There was this huge, I think it's new, very nice kind of outdoor garden area that is like an entire city block that is also a food truck pod or court or something, but it's like really well integrated and nice and very pleasant place, right? And it must be, I think it's all private property because I thought it was funny, they have a sign on the outside of the gate that says you can't bring outside food in, even though it's this whole area of picnic tables and tons of kind of upscale food trucks and everything. But the day before, I'm like telling Vives, I could come here, I could get a Loco Moco and take it back, but I'm like, do I want to eat Loco Moco when I'm watching the game, or do I want to get these Caribbean jerk wings? Like, really, wings would be better. Or I could go to that bar. We could just go to Bruce Magoose's, or we could, and I'm just like, or I go to the grocery store, I get some pretzels and hummus, and like I'm just bouncing around. It's mostly food related now that I think about it, but and Genevieve at one point was just kind of like, You're really excited or confused or having some sort of feelings about this. I'm like, yeah. And I think it is because right now is the ultimate time. The game hasn't started, and literally it is every possibility is still on the table. It's
all potential.
Schrodinger's opening day, right? Like anything, and it could be a great experience or a bad experience. We could win or we could lose. I could have chicken wing grease on my face or a little bit of hummus in my beard. Ew. But I was
yelling Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal by the seventh inning stretch.
Somehow I did not have that on my bingo card, but somebody did. So I think I'm that way a little. And I was thinking about you because I was like, wow, I really am being crazy here. But I was enjoying it. I loved that. And I loved that for me. And I was thinking about, I'm a little bit like this usually for the first like Seahawks game that I'm going to be able to watch during a season. It's like I get excited like, I'll go to the frozen food aisle and decide, am I a Stouffer's boy today or a whatever, And I just love the total potential. And this dog thing is like, this might be the only time in my life I do this. Like, this is, times 100, and it's a member of our family. And so for me, I don't want to rush through this process. Like, I want to enjoy this process, and I want to, like,
the anticipation is really fun for you. So and once the dog is there, you're out of the anticipation mode, and you're just in the, like, now this is really happening mode.
Yeah, and by the way, this woman, I want to be very clear, she was not a bummer in any way, but she did say at one point, she's like, when people are kind of expecting a child and they're so excited to bring a child into their life, but then you can kind of there can be sort of, once the baby comes home, sort of a depression, or whether it's postpartum depression, or just generally speaking, it's just like a lot of work. She's like, I think a lot of dog owners feel that way when they first adopt, or even puppy owners, because she's like, it's so much work, especially with puppies.
Yeah, John's getting rid of his dog.
Yeah, right.
Did you hear?
Yeah.
No.
How much is that going for? Yeah.
His dog is, he said, because when he was on the show for you last week, he was talking about Manan, and that, like, she's still getting used to crate training, and her teeth are basically needles, but she loves nothing more than to bite you. And yeah, I mean, that puppy phase, there is a certain amount of work associated with it.
And he has so much more experience with this than I do. And so I'm not blanching at the work, and I'm not blanching at any of this stuff, but I'm just sort of like, well, let's really, like, we're going to go see these puppies. It looks like maybe on Thursday. And so I'll maybe have an update for you on Friday, but like Dibs is still in Louisiana. You know what I mean? And so, like, I'd like to kind of see, maybe pet Dibs a little bit and sort of pet as many dogs as possible before locking it in. But like you say, Genevieve is, and very knowingly, like, she's like, last night after the meeting, she's just like, I just know that I'm going to fall in love with the first dog I see. And I'm just like, okay, well, let's just try to find a happy medium here. So, and me, like, whatever. I in all seriousness, I could not be going into this with somebody I feel more comfortable with than Genevieve, because I know that Genevieve is also there to do all of the training work that goes along with it. She has a little bit more experience, and so if we end up latching onto the first one, I'm not trying to say that like I'm dunking on Genevieve, because I know that we will make the right decision together for real. But I'm excited about the process as much as I am excited about the future.
Yeah, and also, I mean, this is the whole thing with relationships, and it's a good balance, right? It's like, and I would say typically, if I'm thinking about the history of my relationships, maybe one of them I was pretty similar to the person, but generally speaking, I seem to end up with people that have enough difference from me that it ends up being a good tension, in that, because if allowed to act unilaterally, I tend to do a lot of crazy stuff and make a lot of impulsive decisions. So it sounds like you guys are going to balance each other out pretty effectively. And also, I'm stoked for you guys to get this dog. I'm jealous, but stoked.
Yeah.
And a little hungry, but mostly jealous, but also a little bit stoked.
A little bit cooler, just a little bit cooler.
Yeah. I ended yesterday's show by mentioning that, like, I needed to fix the tire on my riding lawnmower, which keeps going flat. And I bought an air compressor to pump it up. And what I realized finally was I think it's the inner tube I didn't think there were inner tubes in the front tires. And then I was like, well, what have I been attaching the air compressor to?
Yeah, I was wondering about that, because I don't know much about tires, but I was trying to figure out how it worked, because they must make those, maybe they do make tubeless tires that seal against the thing, but I've never experienced
and that's not what these are. It's the strangest thing, because, again, had this lawnmower for a few years. This one tire would seem to go flat kind of frequently. I think it had a slow leak, and then I would pump it up with a bicycle pump, and then I got this little mini air compressor, and I was using that, and it sort of worked the first time, but then somehow in my mind I decided, for no reason, that these tires didn't have an inner tube in them, even though I'd been hooking something up to the inner tube. I can't explain it to you other than I just lost my mind temporarily. And so anyway, yesterday I went on a mission to get this whole thing worked out. And so I was like, I pulled the tire off, and I was like, I'm gonna have to, I guess, pull the inner tube out, or I'm gonna have to order either a new tire or a new inner tube and try to figure out who has this. And I thought, wait a second, I bet you my guys at Les Schwab might be able to handle this. So I called up and I was like, do you do riding lawnmower tires? I said, absolutely. Bring it on in. This was at like 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon when I was done.
4 in the morning. It was 4 in the morning, and they had fresh popcorn for you.
They did. They had black coffee and fresh popcorn. There's the guy there who's like, we were waiting for you.
Yes.
It was like right after I got done with all my real work. So it was like 4, maybe it was even later. It might have been like 4:30. And I'm just calling him, like, yeah, bring it on down. And by like 5:15, I had a brand new inner tube all pumped up inside of the tire. The tire itself was fine. The inner tube was the problem. They had switched it all out.
Can I ask you a question? You brought the whole wheel to them, right? Or
yeah,
wait.
I took it off. Yeah,
you took it because I was like, I wouldn't even know how to do that.
That's pretty straightforward, actually. It just has what's called a cotter pin, which holds it in place. It's not like
the
a
wheel.
car.
Yeah, no, that's what I was thinking. Like, I think I would know how to take the wheel off. I don't think I would know how to strip the tire and tube off of the wheel. So
that was part of it. I didn't really have a great tool for that. And of course, at a place like Les Schwab, that's all they do all day. They've got like a million easy ways to get like a tire off of the rim. I didn't really have that. I could have done. I remember being a kid and my dad being very like, because I was always changing my bike tires, so my inner tubes were always popping or whatever, and my dad being like, don't dig that thing out with a screwdriver.
Interesting.
There's two things that I was raised to be terrified of. One was digging the inner tube out with a screwdriver and therefore creating another hole, and the other was using a knife or a chisel of some kind to chop away the ice in a frozen over freezer.
Oh, yeah.
Because you will puncture the Freon tube. And guess what I did at my house in Bellingham? We had this. Remember how much you loved my rumpus room downstairs?
Yeah, with the ping pong table.
That rumpus area, when we moved and bought that house, it had a vintage, really awesome vintage fridge in the little downstairs kind of bar area. But of course, because it was old, it always froze over. And one day I was like, let me get some of this ice out of here. And like, I just punctured the Freon tube and you could hear it coming out. And I was like 11 years old. And my dad was saying, do not under any circumstances use anything sharp to try to get the ice out of a frozen over fridge.
I can feel your face getting hot. Like,
dude, it was so, and my dad's not like a, he was not an overbearing dude. It wasn't even that. It was just like, I literally in the intervening 35 years, I had forgotten the advice, which was don't chip that ice away. You unplug the freezer, you put down some towels, and you let that thing defrost.
Do its thing. Yeah. Also, never make a phone call from a hotel room.
That's right.
Totally
that's $1,000 a minute.
Exactly.
Precisely.
That's the other thing I remember.
But so anyway, I called them, and they were like, "Yeah, bring it on down." And I drove it down there. They are so... Have you ever taken your car in for something at Les Schwab or just heard its legend?
I think I've been a Les Schwab customer one time. The last time I tried to go and I was a little bit disappointed. Like, they just couldn't... They basically said, like, we're too busy. We can't help you. And I was, like, a little bit turned off by that. Yeah. And the guy was not even really apologetic about it. He was kind of... It was a Saturday. It was like a Saturday afternoon, but that's when I needed the help. And he was just kind of like, he looked... Again, these are really good people, and remember they heard us like promoting them on the show one time and sent us a bunch of like tchotchkes and a signed map
right. I forgot about this.
Of their, so like I know that they have a great reputation.
Be scraping the internet for mentions.
No, I have a good feelings towards them. Yeah. Unfortunately, my last experience with them really left me feeling kind of cold because I really needed some help, and the guy not only did he say he couldn't help, but he sort of acted like I was crazy for coming to a tire shop for help on a Saturday, and I was kind of like, well, all right, and so I went to a competitor. But generally speaking, I hear that
what
the
were you
rumors
getting?
are true.
What did you need to have fixed, if you don't mind me asking?
I had it was like my lower back. It was just like it hurt.
Your back,
so
your neck.
Yes.
Your other thing.
Go on.
Your other thing.
Go on. And he looked and he just treated me like I was crazy, and it really bummed me out. No,
I've got
think
just the sound for that.
I think I had a slow leak. A tire and
on your car,
obviously. And needed it. Yeah, it was.
That's really surprising to me because the thing I was going to say maybe is this could just be my experience, but like I have personally never been to a Les Schwab when they didn't say sure, we'll figure that out. Maybe on the rare occasion it was something I needed to like leave the car there for a day and come back or something, but like I've always been, and maybe again I haven't brought my stuff in on a busy Saturday, or maybe I just got a different person at the front, area. But like my personal experience with this, and by the way, this is a tire place for those that don't live in the Northwest, although you've probably at this point pieced that together. And it's just kind of this weird, it's just like a weird, very Northwest thing. Les Schwab was a real guy. He was this like rancher, I think, from somewhere, who also did this tire thing. And of course, his big promotion when I was growing up was free beef. Mm-hmm. Like if you bought a set of tires, you'd get some free beef, which was then and remains now in my mind the weirdest promotion ever. These seem like totally unrelated events. honey, we'll get some free beef with those tires.
Yeah, and even just like thinking about like, oh, is this the tire beef? You know what I mean? Like there's just like when you go into a tire shop, you think about the smell of tires. You know what I mean? So you don't really want to be. Oh, by the way, I brushed my teeth in the Maui airport bathroom, and I thought of you because didn't you say you would never brush your teeth in an airport bathroom?
I think that would be that would feel kind of yucky to me because I'm thinking about the invisible particles in the air.
I will say that it wasn't the freshest bathroom I'd ever been in either, and it was.
I also open my mouth when I'm in a bathroom and breathe, so I don't know how that's any worse. Than brushing your teeth.
It was the scenario that you would not like though, because it was not like a sterile kind of experience. But I had just eaten the first Burger King I'd had in a long time because our flight was delayed, and when I'm at the Maui airport, I always think about this Burger King that they have there, and so it's like my little treat, and I got myself a Whopper, and I was stuck between two Burbank. It was a real Burbankian conundrum because
I love how much I'm able to squat in your head.
But you don't like you really are afraid of having bad breath, right? So here I've eaten this burger
paranoid.
with like onions and mustard or whatever, and so I really felt like the need to brush my teeth. But then as I'm taking my toothbrush out in this or what's the word I'm looking for? This bathroom that is not without its own let's say
odoriferous.
Odoriferous is I think the word I was looking for. Anyway.
Right. Dude, by the way, we'll get back to Les Schwab in a moment, but Becca and I, when we were in Seattle for the opening day and visiting with my brother and just kind of hanging out a bit, we were about to leave actually, and so our car was parked in this sort of parking garage, and we were both like, well, we're going to be on the road for a few hours. Let's quickly hit the bathroom. And this was this really fancy downtown office building that has this great kind of lobby with these different sort of like restaurants and coffee shops and lots of like kind of almost co-working space, but just places people could spread out on couches and work. And it actually felt very vibrant and made me happy. It felt like downtown Seattle was like kind of good things were happening there. But they have gender neutral bathrooms, or they have, I guess, single person use bathrooms. So there's like, we were like, which way are the bathrooms? And the people at the coffee shop that we didn't buy any coffee from were nice enough to go, they're around that corner and here's the code, which was sweet of them. Cause like, you know, we weren't customers. We just needed to use the bathroom. And so we get over, there's like maybe 3 of these bathroom doors that are all occupied at the time. And so we're waiting, and then one of them opens up and Becca goes in, and then finally another one opens up, and this guy comes out, and he just like holds the door for me to go in. And I'm like, okay. And then he leaves, and I go in, and
oh no,
it was to say that it was eye-watering in there, Andrew. I mean, there was not like a mess. It wasn't like there was a situation.
It wasn't a paint job.
It was not a total paint job. Oh, who did the paint job now? For those listening and not watching, I was doing a sketch from I Think You Should Leave. But it was eye-curdling. And here's what got me about it. The fact that the guy held the door open for me.
Well, maybe he was just trying to let as much air in as possible.
Such a power move. Such a power move. I was like, I would never have the confidence after doing whatever happened in there to then open the door, direct eye contact the next person, and hold the door like, please, welcome to this chamber of secrets.
I guess the longer he held it open for you, though, the more
Maybe
fresh
he
air
thought it
did
was
go
gonna
in.
ventilate.
But the fact that he locked eyes with you did one of those like, you mess with me, you get the horns symbols.
He looked totally and completely unapologetic about what I was about to find out in there.
Yeah.
And I didn't even use it. And I literally was like, I just went back out and I just waited. And then someone else came.
Really?
And then I was like, I didn't feel like explaining to them why I wasn't going to use that one because I don't know. I just felt like they'll figure it out for themselves. They'll either be able to handle it or they won't. But I'm not going to go like, that one smells really bad. Don't go in there. I just was like, So then I just waited for the one Becca had been in, which she was like, dude, this one smelled bad when I went in there. I was like, this is the Glade factory compared to the one I was in, lady.
And it's funny how, I mean, nobody likes to go into a stinky bathroom, right? A stinky public bathroom, but there is something so personalized about a single-use bathroom, or not a single-use bathroom.
That was the last time this will ever be used.
I've turned some bathrooms into some single-use bathrooms.
They've closed the entire U.S. Bank building on 6th.
But there is something about kind of like, nobody, like this is my stanky Yankee. You know what I mean? Welcome to my world.
Confusing. Like I've told this story a million times, but like when I was one time for some reason I entered the men's bathroom at the Pittsburgh airport. And I just wanted to like slide a business card under all the stalls that just said "See a doctor."
Yeah,
but
right.
I couldn't tell you who exactly it was in that men's bathroom of the Pittsburgh airport. It was a little bit anonymized. But when it's a bathroom that only one person has been using, and they've also been in there for a good while because you've been waiting, and then they just open the door, they just hold it for you, and they just look like it's just any other Friday at 1 p.m. It was quite something.
Back to Les Schwab in a moment, but do you know what a Pittsburgh toilet is, by the way? Have we talked about this on the show?
We've talked about this.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure the fact that was in Pittsburgh.
This was not
not
the Pittsburgh toilet, which is the basement toilet that doesn't have any walls protecting it, right?
Yeah,
that's the Pittsburgh toilet.
Folks can just Google it, but yeah, there's like this sort of like Midwest phenomenon of just like, but specifically, I guess in that region of a thing called a Pittsburgh toilet, which is you might just be in somebody's basement, like an unfinished basement, right? Like a basement, and somebody has just decided to install a toilet, maybe in the corner of the room, maybe in the center of the room, with just like a loose roll of toilet paper sitting next to it and no sink in sight.
Any port in the storm. I grew up one of 7 kids in a rental that had one bathroom.
Yeah,
I could have taken a Pittsburgh toilet, no problem.
Vives and
I think I turned our big, like we had those big kind of cement like wash basin kind of next to the laundry in the basement. I think I turned that into a Pittsburgh urinal a few times.
I believe that. I think this house is the first time Vives and I have had 2 bathrooms, and I actually just had this thought. I think it was yesterday.
The relationship, didn't it?
I was in the kitchen. I had to go to the bathroom so bad, and Genevieve was taking a shower, and I was like, oh man, it's been so long. It's been years now since I've had to think like, hurry up, get out of there, get out of there. The clock is ticking. It was a moment of me appreciating the situation.
Becca's place, which is lovely, but it has one bathroom.
Yeah.
And it only comes up like every few, like it would come up once every 4 months, where it'd just be like we both have to go to the bathroom at the same time, or she's doing her makeup in there or something, and I'm like doing a jig outside. And it's like, I've been fortunate that in my adult life, generally speaking, I've had lived in homes where there was a couple of bathrooms, but again, a Pittsburgh toilet, look, you gotta go, I would take it. But
okay, Les Schwab.
Anyway, all I want to say about Les Schwab, and again, you had your experience with it, but like, I freaking love that place. Now, by the way, do I want to know the politics of anyone associated with Les Schwab? From Les Schwab down the line? Absolutely not. But when I go in there, it's just a flurry of activity. It's the people at the front are so nice. There is the free popcorn that you talked about. It's also just like 30 dudes running around in their Les Schwab uniforms that are all covered in like tire dirt.
Mm-hmm.
There's that tire smell that you're talking about that I kind of love for some reason.
Oh, and they do simple repairs for free. I was just talking badly about my last experience there, but my experience before that was like I took a tire there that had a slow leak, and they took care of it and just for free, and then sent me on my way.
Yes. I was wondering if they were going to do that on my lawnmower tire. They charged me $30, but now there's a lifetime warranty on that tire.
Wow.
So if there's a problem with that tire, I can just bring it back. And it was so much easier than me trying to like pull it out, go find the proper inner tube, or check that inner tube for leaks, and then get a rubber repair kit and that whole thing. So just the fact that I was able to breeze in there, like I said, the woman who helped me out initially was like so nice. I'd also left this like crummy, she was like a very put together kind of woman in her 20s. And I had like put the lawnmower tire on the counter. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that with a car tire. But it was just kind of like, I called about this. Can you guys fix this? And she was like, sure. And she's like typing all the stuff into the computer system. And then she's like, okay. I go, well, should I come back tomorrow? She goes, no, it'll probably be like 45 minutes or something. I go, okay, I'm going to run some errands and then come back. She goes, great, awesome. And then I just like walk away, and then I realize this crummy tire with like dirt caked in it and stuff. I mean, I've been like tooling around my yard with this thing for 3 years. I come back and I go, do you want me to put this on the ground or something? She goes, yeah, if you wouldn't mind, that would be awesome. Like pick up my gross tire and I place it by the door for one of the Les Schwab dudes to come grab. But I got it all fixed up. It's back on the mower. I'm trying to wait for the perfect time It's killing me to not mow the lawn right now. But the thing is, everybody's coming over on Sunday. So the perfect time to mow the lawn is Saturday. Because I know that if I mow it today, it's going to be grown out. It will be a little bit shaggy by Sunday. I don't want it to be shaggy at all. So I'm having to work on other projects and try to have a little bit of self-restraint. Even though now I got this bitchin' new wheel on there, I should be in good shape.
I'm getting. I had already told you this, but to reiterate, I'm getting kind of anxious about my situation because our garage right now has just been taken over by all of these workers and the tools out there and the machines and just all kinds of stuff. And I don't know that I can last past Saturday without mowing the lawn, so I'm going to have.
And there is no getting to that lawnmower.
Well, there will be. I'm getting to that fucking lawnmower. I don't know exactly how, but that's going to be the hardest part of the job, I think. But I also might just need to tell them ahead of time, like I'm going to be clearing a path one way or the other. So you might want to, if you have anything that you want to move out of here, move it out of here. But by the way, the project is going pretty. I'm hoping to see some more progress by the end of this week here in the basement here.
Yeah.
This is taking
This is like, man, big life changes there in the Walsh household.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think it's the Has Walsh household. If you're around Genevieve, I would go with that. And I would say this, if you're sending us a Christmas brag rag, do not send it to Mr. and Mrs. Andrew Walsh, because I had a former boss do that one time. And that person is no longer
too late
allowed on the West Coast.
But household does kind of work, though, is the problem.
I'm sorry. I talked over you. The household. Yeah. Oh, the Walsh household. You're right. Instead of the Walsh has household. But anyway, yeah, this is a
lot going on for you.
Yeah, it is, and that's another reason I was kind of like, do we want to raise a dog amongst this chaos
in a construction zone?
Don't we want no? But we can't wait for that, because this might be a project that lasts the rest of our lives. I'm now learning, but yeah.
Sorry, I'm not trying to. I don't mean to laugh at your pain.
No, it's good. I didn't need a kitchenette.
We was hoping for some razzle-dazzle.
Razzle-dazzle.
That's right, man. Razzle-dazzle.
On your mark.
On your mark.
Get set.
Get set.
Now ready.
Ready. Go.
Everybody razzle-dazzle.
All right, it's time for some dazzling donors. These folks are donating some dough each month, and it's vital to the existence of this program. This is 100% listener-supported podcasting, supported by listeners like Jamie Julian, who's in Columbia, Maryland. Jamie is clarifying that it's Jamie, not Jaime, which Jamie apparently gets a lot. People will say Jaime.
Probably because of the spelling,
cool.
Right?
Maybe so, yeah. Jamie says, don't you ever get tired of hearing how great you are and how much we love you?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say tired of it. I would say it is humbling, and also something that I'm trying to stay present with. I'm not to be a cornball, but it is an interesting thing about these dazzling donor messages, which are these folks are donating a significant amount of money to the show each year, and then are also writing a little message, and then are also often using that message to say nice things about us and John and the show and the Tens. And it's a very, very sweet, Jamie.
And I get it a lot in my private life, though, too. That's the difference. Like,
that's why you're burned out on it.
We get a lot of it through the dazzling donors in a professional way, but also everybody I know personally is always sort of fawning all over me. And you've experienced that. You've done it yourself. So for me, it's just kind of like having a small break from that is nice, and I appreciate it.
For me, this is water in the desert. Yes, these kinds of compliments from Jamie.
Exactly.
Jamie says, I have to assume it wears on you at times. So today I'm flipping the script. Let me tell you about what an elite level 10 I am.
Yes,
I love this, Jamie.
Yes, this is great.
In mid-2022, I feel like this should have the Knight Rider music under it.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to call that up? Let's see here.
In 1979, Michael Knight was involved in an accident.
Okay.
I have the theme right here, and I probably have like a rights-free one too. Do we want to? There we go.
Is this it? It's an NBC classic.
There we go. Perfect. In mid-2022, trapped at home during the pandemic, I decided to start TBTL from episode number 1.
Oh, now you're competing with the actual words.
The actual plot line of the show, which was that, I think for some reason, why did they, let's see here, let's just do this.
I watched the pilot recently, and it does not make sense.
Oh, right? Because it's like, basically...
He just wakes up in this rich guy's house who decides that he's going to... But
this is a better one. We're looping this, baby. This is happening.
Because they have
to start...
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I decided to start TBTL from episode number 1. Well, this one has the talking
Yeah,
too.
that's why I thought you were going back. I thought you wanted to hear the origin.
Does not exist.
Sorry, Jamie. Now we're in Knight Rider world. The song actually kind of slaps,
Yeah, it's
though.
pretty good.
Like, it's got a little bit of that, like, kind of early, like 80s, kind of like, I guess what you called electro.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that song Rocket? Was that a Herbie Hancock song?
Herbie Hancock did have a very famous song.
And I remember the video for Rocket was all of these like robotic little kind of like high, like what do you call it? Like kind of robotic movements of things that were on like a piston, different kinds of pistons, and it was like I think like legs and arms were.
Oh, I'm looking at it now. I don't remember this. Yeah, of course. The second you hear this music. I'd never seen this video before, though. This is weird.
Did I describe it at all?
Yeah, it's like a bunch of some guy who's got a whole bunch of he's making mannequins come to life, and they're very unsettling. I can understand why this would stick in your head. You seem like a sensitive young man.
It's a little more David Cronenberg than I remember.
It is creepy, yeah. Okay, can we use this for Jamie's message?
Yes.
Okay.
In mid-2022, trapped at home during the pandemic, I started building mannequins. No, I decided to start TBTL from episode number 1. I'd only jumped in at episode 2969 back in August of 2019, so I had some work to do.
Oh, my God.
Jamie is our friend who is also a little, right?
Yes, exactly.
This is our friend who's a fan of the Tony Kornheiser program. So I had some work. Since then, I've listened to every episode in a collector series through my starting point, compressing almost 11 years of this nonsense into 3.5. That is not casual fandom. That's commitment to a mental institution, Jamie. Can we get a 5150? Please, can we Baker Act our friend Jamie, who we love? Wow, Jamie, so that would just mean so many hours of TBTL every day to get there. Golly, I mean, I'm going to assume that this is something that that Jamie was enjoying or at least tolerating, because that is an hour of this every day is a lot, but that'd have to be, I don't know the exact math. We're talking probably 4 or 5 hours a day.
Well, the problem that I see here is I'm assuming the next paragraph is going to be like, yeah, it really was better when Jen was on the show. Is that what Jamie goes on to say?
Yeah, Andrew, if you want to take your headphones off for about the next 20 to 40 seconds.
I'll listen to this.
Yeah, just swell the Herbie Hancock,
a lot
please.
of record scratching here.
And make no mistake, it felt like work some days, but it was worth it. I got so much joy from experiencing the genesis of all the jokes. There are certain moments I will never forget. For example, my awe at hearing the a cappella group sing the TBTL intro, or guffawing when Andrew did the marsupial gurgle in conversation before it became the drop we all know and love. This is really interesting stuff, Jamie.
Interesting.
And also, like, this is like the ultimate argument for doing this project, which I know a few other people have as well, which is like they start listening to the show at some point, and then they kind of want to like know the beginning of it, so they go back. But that's the fun part, is if you kind of know I'm not going to say it's the end of the story, but at least the middle part of the story, then listening along and knowing when something happens, you're like, oh shit, this is going to become lore.
Yes, especially if you noticed it in conversation, because a quick recap on how that worked was you asked me a question, and I think I have some tape of this here if we're interested. You had asked me a question just, in conversation on the show on some random day, and as I tried to think about it, I sort of made this weird sound. And then the next day, or I think after that show posted, some listener pointed out to you, like, what is that weird sound Andrew made when he was trying to think of his next word? And so you isolated it, and then you mixed it into a bunch of songs or whatever.
Yeah, right.
And I had just listened to that recently. So what I find interesting is, like, Jamie didn't even necessarily notice it the next day when you had already, like, sort of isolated it, but might have just been listening and just heard me go and in conversation, which would be unsettling.
Absolutely. That comes up later in the message that this has been slightly unsettling for Jamie the project. By my math, that's roughly 848 TBTL vintage episodes per year on top of keeping up with the current shows. Okay, so there's 300 days in a year. So let's round up and say this is 900. Well, 365 days in a year. So like That's basically, let's just call it maybe 3 extra episodes a day plus the regular day's episode. Now that's assuming that Jamie was on a 5-day schedule. She could be on a 7-day schedule, which might slightly spread the burden.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of TBTL every day. Jamie says, I think we could all agree this is a stunning accomplishment.
I agree.
Without a doubt, Jamie. Without a doubt. Now that the ride is over, and I'm weirdly proud and slightly unmoored, but mostly proud to keep on potting. That's from Jamie, not Jaime, in Columbia, Maryland. Wow, that's incredible.
Not only all jokes and sort of kidding on the square aside about like just what mainlining that much TBTL and that much of a time machine through a 3.5 year period does to one. Good or bad, you've certainly gotten into a rhythm of it, and I wonder what happened when you say you feel unmoored. Maybe that's just because you've just put way too much nonsense in your head, but also because now you don't have that backlog. And I would say, I'm not trying to be self-aggrandizing here. I would say that about anything you've gotten in the habit of. When suddenly there's no more runway, there's no more sidewalk, where you've Shel Silversteined yourself. I wonder if you've gone back. Are you going back to Kornheiser #1? You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing with all your time? Maybe you're just listening to birds and taking long walks and taking deep breaths. And
I wouldn't
would
recommend
nice.
it.
Yes.
I would not recommend touching grass. I would not recommend any of that kind of stuff. Well, Jamie, thank you so much for being such a friend of the show over the years and being such a completist and being so fun, and also for supporting us. And for, if I remember right, creating at least a mild awareness in the Kornheiser universe about us. You know, like I don't know if it got to the Tony level. Maybe there was maybe he read something from Jamie. There was definitely because I'm a Kornheiser fan, and I remember Jamie and sending us some messages that indicated that there was little small ways that TBTL was kind of was making some small and very brief and quick appearances in the Kornheiser universe in one way or another.
Because of my friend Gretchen, who was a TBTL listener. Her name was Gretchen Wu, and she kind of became a side character. I mean, as a call-in person, side character on that show. And then I think maybe that's how then maybe when I dropped Gretchen's name on TBTL, maybe it's something clicked for Jamie or something. I can't quite recall. One of them, though, did send a note into Kornheiser, and I think that he might have uttered the name of TBTL at one point.
I know he read something. I have a memory of hearing tape of him reading something.
Yeah, me
and
too.
In his, I would say, Kornheisian way, my memory is he sounded annoyed. But that's good.
Well,
that's what
should be.
That's what we turn to Tony for. So thank you, Jamie. We really do appreciate you. Maestro?
On your mark.
On your mark.
Get set.
Get set.
Now ready.
Ready. Go.
Everybody rattle.
My goodness gracious, it's our pal Max McDaniel in Maple Leaf in Seattle.
Hey, Max.
Home of the Wedgwood broiler. I mean, technically that's Wedgwood, but Maple Leaf and Wedgwood are kind of... Did you see that story in the Times that the Wedgwood broiler owner is thinking about selling it?
Well, I read something like a long time, like a half a year ago or something, about how that whole area might be kind of impacted by a new grocery store. It might be torn down. That's something different.
You mean the square, the actual location of the Wedgwood broiler?
Yeah, I thought it's been my understanding for a while now that there is a bit of a time stamp, or not a time stamp, but like an expiration date on that. But are you talking about
the one
something
on
more?
Teddy's?
What's that? Yeah, exactly. That's still there. But are you talking about something more recent than that, like recent news?
Yeah, it sounded like this was from like a week or two ago, and it sounded like. My reading of it, and also maybe I was kind of breezing the article, so maybe I missed that important point. But it didn't sound like Wedgwood Broiler is closing because the block is being raised. It was like the guy who owns it, who went to Nathan Hale, by the way, shout out to my alma mater, and was like a dishwasher there, which is such a great story. Like he worked there, basically like after school or in college or whatever, and then worked his way up to being the owner of it. Has just been doing it forever. And it's a hectic schedule, and he and his wife kind of want to enjoy their 60s or whatever, and they've got other things going on. So I didn't read it to be it's going away. It's 100% going away, but I just thought anything that endangers that place would bum me out, because that place is I love that place. Anyway, that's where Max McDaniel is, generally speaking. Here's what he says. I received the donor message request email while I was abroad on a work trip to Hyderabad, India. So I took the opportunity to reflect on how important it was to have TBTL as a daily touch point, keeping me rooted to life back home amidst all of the wildness that was my first experience in South Asia. My goodness, I can only imagine, Max. I have yet to, for all my traveling, I have yet to visit that part of the world, and I would really love to. But the one thing I've heard from anybody who's visited, it's that it's intense. Just the volume of folks, depending on the time of year, the temperature, just the whole thing, it sounds like, is a pretty intense experience. Being almost 12 hours ahead of Pacific Standard Time, I'd wake up around 3 a.m. and have the day's new episode to accompany me during the delirium of jet lag. The TBTL community has continued to shine brightly over the past 2 years of independence, and I'm so thankful we're able to collectively come together and support both the show and each other. I'll close with a reminder to take care and be kind to one another. What we're doing is so important. Max, now Max has, I think, keyed in on something, Andrew. People are, because we have that drop. Is that Maria Bamford?
Yeah, yes, it is.
It's so funny. Maria Bamford doing an impression of like her mother.
Of her mom. And that we can't play, I think maybe one time we played the whole thing that it comes from. It is the punchline of one of the funniest bits that is really not super TBTL appropriate because it gets into some pretty dark material. But yeah, she ends it by saying, have a good show, sweetie. What you do is so important.
And so people love to say that to us about, hey, the show is so important. But I think Max has really done it. What we're doing is so important. Without Max, without Jaime, without all, everybody who listens to the show and is able to donate to the show and jumps on the Slack, this is a project, without our friend John Sklaroff, this is a project that involves all of us. And the listeners are equally important to this, because without the listeners and without the donors, this doesn't exist. So maybe we take what you do is so important, and maybe we swap in what we're doing is so important, because this really is a group effort.
Yes, absolutely. And I like the Max and Jamie both sort of kind of acknowledge the fact that let's celebrate the listeners a little bit more than the bozos behind the mics.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, let's not celebrate the bozos.
Yeah,
okay,
that's a good point.
I mean, a little,
Sure.
but because you're getting all this in positive feedback in your private life. But again, I kind of need this. But
I'm
let's
just calling
also
people,
celebrate.
I'm just calling people
calling people bozos. Anyway, thanks, Max. We appreciate you.
Hello and welcome to Top Story.
I don't imagine that this name would mean a whole ton to you, Andrew, just because of when you got to Seattle. But a guy named John Hinterberger has passed away. He was a restaurant critic for the Seattle Times for many years, but he was also just kind of like a sort of Seattle institution for my whole growing up years. I remember, this was back when, the thing about him passing, I think he was 92 years old, so he, lived a pretty amazing and long life. But this is almost a story for me about the change in the media landscape. Like the fact that as a 12-year-old, for instance, this remembrance was written by Ton Vinh. By the way, Ton Vinh, phenomenal writer at the Seattle Times, just does really great food writing. But I doubt, Ton, I say this with peace and love, I doubt that a lot of 12-year-olds in Seattle know about Ton Vinh. Whereas if you were a 12-year-old like I was in Seattle in 1987, you knew John Hinterberger. Like, you knew that the restaurant review guy for the Seattle Times, he was a celebrity. There was a thing called Hinterberger's Alley when you went to the Bite of Seattle, and these were all restaurants that he had recommended that were now serving their food at the Bite of Seattle. Like, it was just in reading about his life, which was very interesting, and his time, in the media, it was just making me very nostalgic for the 1980s and a little bit the 1990s in Seattle, when the media landscape was so different. When again, being the guy who wrote restaurant reviews really made you a somebody. He used to do this like big kind of chili festival that everybody came to. That was a whole thing. And so, yeah, if you're somebody listening who's about my age and you grew up in Seattle, and also you were the kind of weird kid who was reading the Seattle Times in the back of the school, it's a sad day to know that John Hinterberger has passed away. But also, what a life! He grew up in Connecticut. He was a he wasn't actually a high school graduate. Then he joined the Army, and then he came back, and then he went to college, and I think in Connecticut. And he came out to the Seattle area to go to the University of Washington acting program, the graduate program, which I think is called the PATP program, the Professional Actors Training Program. When I was an undergrad at the UW, for a while I was doing drama, and we really looked up to those grad students because they taught all of our classes, and they were very cool. But one of the things so he starts, this guy John Hinterberger, he wants to become an actor, but he needs to make some money, and so he starts writing for the Seattle Times, I think the police blotter or something, which is also funny that there was a time where if you were somebody who wanted to make it in certain industry, but you needed to make some money, you need a little rent money, you could go be the police blotter writer at the Seattle Times.
Mhm.
Like that was a job.
Is there really a police blotter anymore? Like, first of all,
Probably
it's just kind of like, I feel like they just put it on the front page now because it's like clickbait.
True.
But yeah, I don't even know. Like, is there a police blotter? Maybe
No.
some papers have it, but it doesn't come across my transom all that often.
Yeah, and I used to love reading the like police beat in The Stranger,
It was
the police
written,
blog.
yeah, it was written in kind of a stark kind of just the facts, ma'am, kind of way
Yeah.
often.
Yeah, let's see. To pay the bills, he got a job at the Seattle Times as a police reporter in 1962. When the Times lost one of its arts critics, by the way, the arts critics, Andrew, who left was Tom Robbins, the Even Cowgirls Get the
my
Blues
goodness.
guy.
Yeah.
They wanted John Hinterberger to be the theater writer because he had this graduate degree in theater. He did not like that. He didn't really trust critics. He thought they were wrong a lot of the time. So he wanted to he felt like for him, the arts critic was just like, he wasn't doing anything important. So and this was basically when the Vietnam War was going on and there was all these protests in the streets. So he asked if they would send him to Vietnam, and they said no. Like, he wanted to go to Vietnam as a reporter. So he basically just like stopped being the arts critic, and he got a weekly column called Night Beat, which ran every Saturday night. And he would just wander Seattle on his motorcycle looking for stories. This is I'm reading from Tan's piece here. Composing Damon Runyon-esque accounts of the city's characters and nightlife. His first Night Beat column was about a bloody stabbing at a tavern downtown. Like, what a freaking, I mean, not that it's cool that people got stabbed, but what a cool column. Night Beat. This guy's an ex-Green Beret, and he's just like cruising around Seattle on his motorcycle, just finding out what's really going on in the big bad city.
What was the movie that came out? I can timestamp it at around 2014, 2015 because I know I was in LA when it came out and it was kind of a big deal. Was it Nightcrawler?
Yeah.
Or Nightcrawler?
That's the movie that I will go to my grave thinking I slightly inspired. I've told you this before.
For the record, I've never seen it, and I'm blanking on. Oh, Jake Gyllenhaal, and he drives around. Is it a motorcycle or a car? And he's like somewhere between journalist and he's kind of a night journalist like this, but he's also like trying to get like the sauciest crimes, right? Or the violent.
He's not. He's not. He's one of these guys called night crawlers, which I did a whole profile of in L.A. years before this movie, where I called them night crawlers. They are dudes generally who just drive around with a police scanner and a camera because most, TV stations aren't staffing a camera guy at 3 a.m. And if there's a fire or a police incident, they'll show up, they'll shoot it, and then they'll sell the footage to the TV stations. They have the footage. And the guy that I profiled, this dude turned out to later be the guy setting the fires, which I did not.
God.
I did not know at the time. Like, I was riding around with this guy in his 20s. He was the subject of my piece.
So he makes money if he gets good coverage of the fires. So he's setting the fires and then taking photos of them.
I think in this guy's case, it was more of a compulsion than trying to vertically integrate his business model. But yeah, eventually, like years later or something, a couple years later, it came out that the specific dude I was riding around with gets arrested for lighting fires. And again, I haven't seen Nightcrawler, but I think there's something where basically Jake Gyllenhaal's character goes off the rails in a somewhat similar fashion. I don't know if it's arson or if it's committing other crimes, but So
searching out mayhem with video night crawlers. This is 2005.
Tonight, while you're probably fast asleep, a motley crew armed with video cameras and police radios prowls the Los Angeles
Get ready
area.
for Whisper, Luke.
In 2005, you're dropping a motley crew into your leads. Years later, you will host a show called Livewire, a song by Motley Crue.
Los areas searching for
you don't think it's
a
all
story.
connected?
These stringers, as they're called, are looking for car crashes, fires, and other mayhem in the hopes of selling the footage to TV news stations. For them, each siren wail could be the sound of their next windfall. But as NPR's Luke Burbank reports, stringing can also be a dangerous way to make a living.
Domestic violence in progress in the alley since it was a Nelson.
It's a late Tuesday night in Compton,
Why do I
California,
always whisper?
And Brent Sporn is cruising down Long Beach Boulevard.
This is the guy, Brent Sporn.
Your voice hasn't changed. I didn't know you were doing NPR stories prepubescent. This is, wow, your voice is many octaves higher. I'm excited.
And so weird.
I don't think it's weird. I don't think it's weird. I don't think it sounds
like a normal
bad.
person in
No,
these stories.
I shouldn't say that because it just is going to get in your head more. I don't think you sound weird at all. I think it's a fine read. You just sound so different.
In his silver Chevy Tahoe. Compton is a small, crime-plagued city that borders southern Los Angeles. And at the moment, this street is actually pretty quiet. But trouble is coming from the south.
All units, the vehicle was described as a red Scion. It had Huntington Beach plates on it.
A suspect in Orange County is racing through residential neighborhoods at over 100 miles an hour, hoping to outrun the police. Sporn listens to the chase unfold on one of the 9 police and fire radios he's had installed in his SUV. Curiously, it's not the driver's disregard for human life that's got his attention.
I didn't even know a Scion could go 100 miles an hour.
That's what I was about to say. Did you know that? I mean, did you remember that line was coming?
No,
because
that was
the whole thing. I had a red Scion in L.A. and Genevieve hated it, and this whole time I'm thinking like, yeah, go red Scions, but I'm also thinking like, red Scion in a high-speed chase, and then this guy says, I didn't even know a Scion could go so fast.
Think about how tired those hamsters are.
I cannot believe that is what he said. Sorry, I'm only I find it this funny because I literally was thinking, I was sitting there thinking like, the Scion is going that fast? Anyway, I hope that didn't embarrass you. I loved finding that. That's good.
Yeah, thanks for digging that up.
Yeah.
I wish I could go back. I'm going to ask NPR if I can go back and re-record the video for all of our pieces. Could we get Leo Delagula to remix, please, all of these? If we could.
The reason I got on this, though, is because you were saying that John Hinterberger was sort of he was not a night crawler, to be clear. I'm the one who sort of conflated.
No,
that.
but was like, I'm sure these stories were very pulpy and very fascinating to just have this person who's the column is Night Beat. Now, he eventually became one of the restaurant critics for the paper, and then I think obviously the restaurant critic for not only the paper, but kind of like the city when I was growing up. And this is the thing that jumped out at me because I had actually forgotten about this, although this was a different story that I had done, a TV story about teriyaki. What's called sort of Seattle teriyaki it's kind of credited, this guy Toshi is credited with, Toshi Kasahara is credited with kind of inventing this in Seattle. He was a guy who had come over from Japan and he had this little restaurant. And he was trying to figure out how to, make the restaurant work and make a living. And he started doing this teriyaki thing, and it's sort of like invented here in Seattle, that particular style. And when I went and was talking to Toshi for the TV story a couple of years ago, he was telling me about this. He was like, "Yeah, I was doing this thing, and it was kind of okay, but then it was going okay, but not great." And then this guy, John Hinterberger, came to the teriyaki place and wrote about how amazing it was. And the next day there was a line down the block. And he really credited this review from John Hinterberger as putting his little restaurant, his little lunch spot on the menu and therefore maybe, helping popularize this whole movement. And that's in this Tan Vinh piece. One of the things that was kind of cool about this John Hinterberger guy's approach to food writing was he didn't just go to white tablecloth restaurants. He just went anywhere where there was good food that he was hearing about, whether it was a lunch spot, whether it was being served out of the back of a truck or whatever. And I think that was like a pretty cool element of his career. The other thing that I just read at the end that I just loved, and it's just a footnote on his life, but By the way, he also had a talk show on King 1090 AM for a while in the 90s, which I don't know how I missed that, because it would have been the kind of thing that I loved, but maybe I just didn't listen to King 1090 during his few years that he was doing it. But I bet you that would have been a pretty fun show. What I really liked is at the end of the piece, it says, Hinterberger is survived by his daughters, Katie, Julie Wheatley, and Holly Lynch, as well as 7 grandchildren. In lieu of flowers, the family encouraged friends and fans to donate to one of Hinterberger's 3 favorite charities, Northwest Harvest, Peace Trees Vietnam, and KUOW.
Oh, nice. So
like,
wait, did he
what
end
a
up
mensch.
doing stuff for KUOW? It seems like that would be the type of thing where later on in your career, or as maybe you're shifting things or maybe winding down a little bit, I could see him doing, like check-ins on KUOW.
I have a feeling he must have been on a lot, particularly during his years of being the food writer for the Times. I don't specifically remember like booking him. I think the thing was, he suffered a stroke in the 90s, and that's when he stopped doing his radio show. And that was before I graduated high school. So my time of like working at KUOW, I think would have been a little bit after his most sort of prolific time. He was still doing stuff, but yeah, I'm sure he was on there a lot. And I just love that his family, I mean, if where they're asking you to donate in his honor is any measure of the person.
Yeah, right.
Northwest Harvest, Peace Trees, Vietnam, and KUOW. I mean, that just tells you all you need to know about this dude.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm really interested in that night beat thing. It almost reminds me of things that The Stranger used to do, like who is the woman who said drunk people are meta, who I loved when I
Kelly O.
And
Drunk of the week.
I didn't even realize that that was the person behind that drop, although when I came to Seattle and I started reading The Stranger.
Are so meta.
I loved Kelly O's columns of just like going around the nightlife of usually Capitol Hill or somewhere in Seattle and just like interviewing a drunk person on a Saturday night. Like, I love that kind of stuff. And like, I don't want to bemoan the state of media too much. I think things have just shifted and there are different outlets, and you have exciting things like Defector and Midwest Excellence and other, you know what I mean? Like there are still a lot of interesting things going on, but it's hard not to feel nostalgic for a time when stuff like that was happening with like real budgets behind that. Did you read, by the way, this is just slipping into sadness, but did you read that piece in the Washingtonian about, it was basically a profile of the guy who was hired to basically oversee the last 3 years of the Washington Post. What is his name? Will Lewis, I think.
Yeah, I didn't read that piece, but I've been hearing about him a little bit, and kind of the if you can call it that, the project of trying to like, gut the Washington Post.
Originally, yeah. I mean, he was hired to save the Washington Post, but clearly didn't. And even the article does make a good point that like the huge loss of readership really came from 2 acts by Bezos himself.
Yes.
But basically that this guy at a certain point kind of got wrapped up in a scandal that was connected to his old job back in Britain somewhere. And because of that, he basically lost the trust of the staff, and then he retreated into himself, and just like he was getting paid a lot of money to basically be a shadow figure that nobody ever saw.
Was he part of that whole like illegal phone tapping thing in the UK?
Yes. Or if it wasn't the phone tapping, maybe his part had to do with like some sort of hacking. But basically, getting access to in part of the lawsuit from, I think, a member of the royal family and stuff. And so he was part of the team that was supposed to clean that up as well. And the accusations is that he threw like kind of like lower level people under the bus just to kind of get the heads of that operation to kind of save their heads. But anyway, the whole thing was just like you're reading about this august, sorry to use such a cliche term there, but just like this. I mean, it's the goddamn Washington Post. You know what I mean? Like, and to hear about how
they got a friggin' president to resign.
Yes, and then because of another president and a bootlicking multi-billionaire is basically now just flushing it down the toilet you can just uncreate something so quickly, and it is so, the reason the media today isn't what the media used to be is not just because of billionaires acting irresponsibly. There's a lot of things, but I was on vacation reading that piece and just like
light reading.
Yeah, exactly. I did a lot of light news reading over my coffee in Kihei, but that one just like it really stuck with me.
Well, yeah, because if you look at the New York Times is, thriving as far as I'm aware. You know, they did something very, very smart, which is that they identified early that like they needed to have a way stronger digital presence and that they needed to be a multimedia organization, et cetera. And they got over, they needed a paywall, and they did it. And the Washington Post, all accounts, I mean, you actually read the piece more recently than I did, so you might know more about this, but my sense is before Bezos bought them, they were a going concern. I mean, one, they were seen as a check on the power of the government because they invested a lot of money in their reporting, and that was valuable to people who want the government to be on notice. So you might say that's advocacy journalism, but they had a sort of an identity in the minds of the readers, and they were up against all of the headwinds that any media organization is up against right now, but it was working. And then you come in, and then you gut the editorial staff, you close down a bunch of the bureaus, you neuter the entire paper at a time when, going into Trump's second term, they could have really positioned themselves as a truth-telling check on his power. And instead they're not. And then it's like, well, if they're not that, what are they? So you just kind of ruined this thing for no reason, and it's just going to continue to wither.
For me, one of the interesting data points in this piece that I read, sorry that I've sort of just steered into this conversation that we were not having, but I want you to know as I set this up that I'm interested in this data point intellectually. It does sadden me to a degree, but as I navigate this current world of what I feel like is like pretty evil, or at the very least irresponsible capitalism, and like what we're seeing, the consolidation of power and money in the hands of the few and what they're doing to the rest of us, and I'm just not gonna acknowledge the music. I'm gonna power through it. Is my ongoing attempts to like sort of live in a way that at least I feel like even if withholding my purchasing power from an organization that I don't agree with really is just a drop in the bucket and doesn't have any actual impact on that organization, i.e. dropping Amazon Prime and not shopping with them anymore. I know that's not actually doing anything to Amazon. It's just like my single resignation from that is not really going to move the needle at all. It was interesting, and I hate that this applies to a journalistic organization that I would like to support, but Genevieve and I, there were two things that Bezos did that caused tons of people to stop subscribing to the paper. The first one was when he admitted that he personally had the newspaper pull the endorsement of Kamala Harris right before the election, that he said that was his decision. There was a lower level person underneath him who tried to take the blame for that, but Bezos admitted, like, no, that was me. I basically said, I don't want to do endorsements anymore. But basically he didn't want to piss off Trump because that was going to be bad to his other business interests. And then the second thing he did about a month later was he announced that the editorial pages of the Post were no longer going to like try to have any kind of balance, not like various perspectives, but it was all going to be this sort of right-wing pro-business perspective from now on. Well, that second act was what finally got Genevieve and I to cancel our subscription, and we didn't want to. Like, of all the things, like, we don't want to hurt the journalists, you know what I mean? Of all the things that we decided to like sort of boycott or stop supporting, I didn't want the Washington Post to be the thing that ends up feeling the impact the most. You know what I mean? If I read about Target going under or having to slash half its thing, I'd be happy, like, because I don't shop at Target anymore, and or Amazon proper. But like, it breaks my heart that this is the Post. But if you are, as I was wondering, like, what is the real world impact of that? It said that when Bezos made that first decision and pissed off a lot of readers by like basically spiking the Kamala endorsement, it said 250,000 people immediately dropped their subscriptions. Yeah. And then the second one, the second wave of anger that got me and Vives about the changing of the editorial direction was another 100,000, I think. So it was interesting for me to actually see numbers of like what direct results, according to this piece, which I guess I'm trusting here, is basically saying you can tie 250,000 and then another 100,000 based on these specific decisions that Bezos made. And it's like, well, if you're wondering if sometimes a single individual making a decision like that can have an impact, it does.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the math on, because what is it, like $20 a month or something for the Post probably? You know, you're talking
know.
300,000 people times $20 a month. I mean, is that 60 million? I mean, that's a significant.
Yeah,
maybe,
but it bums me. It's kind of like, again, I wish that I was talking about these numbers, compared to a company like Target or just Amazon proper. Like it's sort of satisfying to see the numbers. It's like, oh well, sometimes people's pocketbook decisions can impact an organization. I'm just pissed off that it's this organization. I didn't want to be responsible or partially responsible for the gutting of the Washington Post.
Yeah, because if you by pulling back your subscription, you're just hastening in a very small way, and everybody who did that, they're just hastening the demise of this newspaper. Which I'm not saying that you made the wrong decision, but it's a bummer because either you continue to pay for the paper and I guess in a weird way reward Jeff Bezos, or you pull your subscription and it just ensures that there will be a day when the Washington Post is going to just be like a very, very, very small shadow of itself website thing going on, and we'll just have none of its, its cultural importance that it's had over the years.
But I blame him. I don't blame us. Like, there was a reason we made that decision is because of his
I'm not blaming you, but I'm saying this is why it's a dilemma.
Yeah,
because you want the Washington Post to exist, or maybe I guess you think that the Jeff Bezos-led Washington Post should not exist, and so therefore, you're not. I mean, I get not supporting it. I'm also not subscribing to them, but only because I had so many subscriptions going between the Seattle Times and the New York Times and the Atlantic and on and on and on. I got a bill from the New Yorker the other day, or no, I was trying to figure out my bill with the New Yorker, and so I did a search in my bank account or something for how much I've paid for the New Yorker in the last 10 years. A shocking amount of money.
I don't think we have the New Yorker currently. We kind of come and go on that, and I leave that up to Vives. But I think I know we're getting the Atlantic still, and I don't know what the decision about the New Yorker was, whether or not it was cost or what. But I will tell you this. Some conversation I was having recently reminded me of a reason why I'm mad at the New Yorker. And I don't know if you remember this, but it was actually the TBTL archives that helped me figure it out. Do you remember I only one time submitted something via Instagram, but officially submitted my idea for the caption contest. And I remember whatever one was so bad, or whatever the three finalists were nowhere. And you know me, Luke. I'm not somebody who goes around thinking that my version of things is usually better. Sure. But mine was so much better. And I remember just being generally mad about that, but I couldn't remember what it was. And I was texting a friend about that a few, months ago, and I was laying on the couch. It was probably like a Friday after my work was done or something, and so I had the time to do this. And I started thinking, what was that? So I started scrubbing the TBTL archives to find that conversation, and I found it, and I was able to then find the year, and then somehow go back into the records of the New Yorker caption cartoon contest to find what my submission was, and I finally put all the pieces together, and I stand by it. The cartoon, and I'm just going to tell you this, was a couple, and they're hiking up a mountain, right? And you can see that there's other hikers there too. But this couple, one of them
have a house on their back.
Yeah, good memory. See, I didn't even remember that. The one guy has a house on his, or maybe they both have houses on the back, or maybe one person in the couple has their house on his back, and they're just climbing. And it's like, what is the caption here? And do you recall what my caption was?
That I don't remember.
My caption was, and remember, we can only eat what snails eat, too.
That's pretty good.
That was good. And the other things were just sort of like, oh, interest rates, am I right? Or some shit that made no sense at all. And I thought mine was so clever. It was it was so specifically dialed into eating and health and fitness trends of just whether it's
exactly. You could see me telling you, Andrew, I'm doing something called snail life.
Right, exactly.
Where I carry my shelter, but I also have to live under some certain weird set of rules.
To not even get a shout out, to not even be one of the three, I'm still burning.
Between me being personally responsible for the Jake Gyllenhaal movie Nightcrawlers,
right,
and you being the erasure of your submission to the New Yorker, what I want to do is I want to say you're welcome to the listeners, that they're getting to hear two of the greatest creative minds of our era operate in relative anonymity over here.
I want somebody to make a documentary about my experience trying to enter one caption contest. I want it to be called Silent Laughter, the Andrew Walsh story.
Here I go once again with the email. Every week, I hope that it's from a female. Oh, man. It's not from a female.
Can I give you a quick little update on something courtesy of some of the listeners, Andrew?
Yes, I was about to do the same for you. I
nice.
think,
okay. Actually,
but
you might have
maybe-
it. You might. You know what? I'm trying to log into my TBTL work account here, and it's being a little tricky on me. So would you mind running this from your end?
Assuming we're talking about the same thing, in which we might, but I'll start with mine, and then that'll give you some time to log in anyway. And I will tell you, I haven't even reviewed these yet, but last week on the show, you played a drop that caught my ear. Is this what you were talking about? And it is something like, this ship doesn't go anywhere. It just goes in circles. I don't think I have that exactly right, but it was something along the lines of that.
I'll grab it here.
And I'll give you, just tell me when you're ready on that. I'll keep going here. But I was like, what is that from?
Doesn't go anywhere except in circles.
You can start that again. I was kind of talking
This
over
ship doesn't go anywhere except in circles.
And I had a whole theory about maybe what that came from. I thought maybe it was like kind of a Seattle-based commercial from when you were a kid. Maybe it had something to do with a Mariners ship in the outfield or something. I just had all these theories. And I got several emails. I'm going to read this one here from Tammy, who says, "Hello, I found the clip." And this is from YouTube, and it's a spaceship recliner pod from Neiman Marcus, 1982. I'm going to play the whole thing. It looks like this is 15 seconds. This is like a
Tammy and Ryan.
Ryan also on the tip here?
Yeah.
Does Ryan have more info?
No, I think it was about the same thing, but I just
Okay.
want to give Ryan some credit too.
So I haven't listened to this yet, but what I'm seeing here is like a very futuristic looking pod chair.
Yes.
But not one of the like round ones that look like the helmets and Spaceballs. It's more like, it looks more like Darth
hexagon.
Vader's
It
helmet,
looks
sort
like
of,
the
that you sit inside.
Gravitron. The Gravitron when I was a kid, except small, except you with just room for one person.
This ship doesn't go anywhere except in circles. But it does have a color TV, stereo sound, a built-in bar, and a wireless phone. It also has a price tag of $32,000 delivered.
Wow. So I don't know if that was a commercial or if that was some sort of round. That almost sounded like it was like a roundup from like PM Magazine or something in the 80s, didn't it?
I think I must have seen that on TikTok.
That's okay. Yeah.
Or
that's
somewhere
what's-
on the
yeah,
internet and then forwarded it to myself and then grabbed that audio.
Yep.
Although what's funny is just what a goldfish brain I am now. Like, I didn't remember any of that. I mean, it couldn't have been that long ago. I mean, it wasn't like that didn't happen in 2008 that I grabbed that audio. So, like, at some point I must have seen that. Or maybe somebody sent it to me, too. And then I guess it's possible, Andrew, that somebody might have sent it to me as a drop.
Oh, maybe.
Every once in a while that happens, where a listener will just send us a piece of, I mean, it could have maybe been our friend Bean. I'm not sure. Although he'd probably send that to you. He would know that you're better at the sort of file management of these things. But because what's weird is when I started watching that video, and thank you, Tammy and Ryan, for reaching out, I had no memory of of observing visually that little weird personal pod. Also, the one thing it's missing, a toilet. The guy's just sitting in there. He's lounging. He's got everything he could possibly need, but then he's got to leave to go to the bathroom like a sucker.
Well, what do you are you picturing this chair being hooked up to plumbing, or are you thinking about a situation where you have to empty it like an RV?
If you're fancy, if you're fancy, it could be hooked up to plumbing. Otherwise, you just move the chair fairly often. I don't know.
Just like, is it filling up a reservoir that you then have to clean at some point?
Well, because the thing is, it's like
it's full.
This is like something out of. This is almost like something out of a sci-fi movie, but as a sort of like cautionary tale of like someday we'll just all sit in a pod and the pod will provide every single thing you could imagine. And then no one will leave their pod. And then, I mean, and whatever. This is a boring and obvious argument, but you could say to some degree that has happened, at least with the way that we are with our phones. But like, it's like, yeah, this ship is missing one thing, a turlet.
Yeah,
he's sitting on a chair that could have a hole in it.
This could be a toilet, but you playing.
Exactly. So,
all right. Well, thank you. Oh, by the way, I did see. So Ryan did send this in, and Ryan saw it on Tiki Taki. And I want to say to Ryan, thank you for the shop vac. It still works. This is Ryan who gave me a shop vac before he moved out of town.
I see. Interesting. You're just getting free. Home appliances.
I'm getting free home appliances and free water bottles, by the way. Shout out to Maggie in Swarthmore.
Oh, our buddy
outside-
Maggie.
Yeah, exactly. Sent me a nice, because I've been not complaining, but just sort of like on the fence on buying a water bottle for so long. And so she sent me one, and I really appreciate that. It's very nice. Thank you. It's cooling in the fridge right now. And you know what I like about it? It's got somewhat of a smaller mouth than this like kind of wide mouth one. But Luke, because I make those special round ice cubes, those spherical ice balls, they fit perfectly. It's very satisfying just to plop, plop, plop them right into the mouth of that thing.
Well, you know what I've been on the fence about is the new Rivian. I keep hemming and hawing, and I'm going to talk about it every day until somebody sends me one.
Oh, my God. I saw so many of those electric, and I'll start the music here because I know we need to get out of here, but I saw so many of those electric VW, what do you call those little vans?
ID Buzz. I love those things. Aren't they cool?
Yes. I cannot. That is, Vives and I are pretty convinced that we're gonna ride this car we have now into the absolute ground, but then eventually, hopefully, those things will still be being made by that point. We want to get one of those.
I'd heard, now, the internet is sometimes not to be believed, but I was seeing a lot of kind of chatter about how those things were really not. There's nothing wrong with the performance of them, but that they just kind of misread the market.
Oh,
and maybe Hawaii is a different vibe, but like I have not seen very many of them driving around, even like Portland. I always note it because I think they're so cool.
Yeah, they're like.
And I was seeing a bunch of kind of chatter online that was like, "Oh yeah, the ID Buzz is a huge flop," and by the way, the prices are dropping.
Oh, okay.
So you might now again that might have been misinformation. I'm not sure, but like, yeah, I could. I've still, I've got my car. It's pretty new. I think I'm going to also drive it. Until gas hits $100 a gallon, and then I may have to make some important decisions. But like, I could definitely see getting into one of those ID Buzzes. I think they're so cool looking.
So cute.
Yeah. All right, Andrew. That's what I'm hemming and hawing about. Forget the Rivian.
Yeah, exactly. Maggie.
No pressure.
Thank you for real.
Yeah. Thank you all for listening. That's going to do it for today. But we're going to be right. Wow, Andrew, did we hit? That's amazing.
Wait, are we?
How?
Is this an especially long show? It zoomed by.
It did really.
I got 142 on my end.
Well, that seems pretty long.
Yeah.
To me. Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. We will be back here tomorrow with more Imaginary Radio for all of you. So please do join us for that. In the meantime, have a great Tuesday. Take care of yourselves. Go Mariners. And please remember, no mountain too tall.
And good luck to all.
Power out.